And good morning, everybody. All of us hippies are out here today. I see my camera light kicked in. The production manager, I rehired him. Amazing what you can do these days. Mm. Hope everybody finds that they're having a great week because it just kicked off. And okay, and I put a comforter that my husband had wrapped around our new curio cabinet, which he threw at me, and it never got put away. I put it down in one of the chairs because the kittens had got wet. So of course now they're just it's a domination thing. You guys know me. Lady Hippy at the bar, and for entertainment purposes only, I will be here all week. I'm very entertaining. Ask anybody. I see Hamas is considering a peace talk or something to that effect. Was happy to see that they had let two hostages go. But where are the women and children? The hostages they're releasing are like over 60. And I don't doubt for a second that either any of them at that age would say, take the girl or take the baby or what have you. So it doesn't impress me that much. I'm glad they're free in their home with their families. That much is true. But I think the babies, one of them turned a year old in captivity. So, and they kidnapped him when he was like 6 months. Yeah, him and his mom. Also, his older brother, who's three. Might be four now. So I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't that impressed. I'm praying that the Israelis were not that impressed, but they don't. They're caught between a rock and a hard place, and Hamas knows it. That's why they grab those people. But if if you cease fire, stop the war, whatever, we'll give you back however many left alive. We're 33 dead found last week. Yeah, it's a lot to think about, isn't it? I've been finding that I found something new while I was surfing the internet, and I found it horrible and fascinating at the same time. I didn't even know we would need such a thing. And I'm going to try to play production manager again because my mic is really not where it should be. We're going to have to tone it down a little bit. Yeah, sound like I'm the hawker at an amusement park. So, oh, come on, that was funny. You know that was funny. For me, the dare still holds, so that it's graduation week. So they pulled up all those tents and threw them away. Yeah, the people that put them there didn't do that. Now they just left all that stuff for somebody else to clean up on graduation week. But then again, there's not 30,000 people who are actually not students of that particular college or university. They're just there to cause trouble. But it looks good on TV, doesn't it? Yes, sir. Yeah. If they said they were an American or even held an Israeli flag, they were arrested immediately. I was watching this all over. What really killed me was UT of Austin and Houston and Dallas. I worked UTHSC in San Antonio. These are all the same type. They're University of Texas. That's what UT is. So they're teaching hospitals. And the one I worked at in San Antonio, and I ran a gestational diabetic department where I hired everybody. I even ordered what equipment we would use because it was a new thing that they had discovered that pregnant women would be diabetic, gestational diabetes it was called, because while they were gestating, having the baby, holding the baby and whatever, they were pregnant, they developed the diabetes. Once the baby was born, neither had diabetes. So this was a fascinating thing for one particular guy, and they paid him a lot of money to come head the department. Got him from Israel. It was fun on his, his, I guess you would say, leaves. When he would come back, he would have pictures of him in uniform. I think he was a colonel or a light colonel over there. Um, but he was also a great doctor. He was an amazing guy. But anyway, his favorite thing he said was going home and shooting terrorists. So, and this was in 90 something, beginning of the 90s anyway. I hadn't even got married yet. So I was like, oh, okay, we don't want to make him mad. The point being that the university that I work for is the same as these other campuses. If it's UT, they're all the same. There's a teaching hospital, generally a county hospital, and then there's a VA attached, okay? So that's generally how they run UT. So if they say UT of Texas, They don't even put Texas in. They just say UT Houston, UT Dallas, and all that. So I was horrified to see that this was being done uh, on campuses across Texas, as if Texas didn't have enough freaking problems. Okay, I mean, people are being slaughtered out there, and you've got people coming in that supposed president, and I'd use that term extraordinarily loosely, are sending, or were sending people up there to take down the razor wire and the wall. Those 11 million that got in here, they was all good folk, Didn't none of them was gonna hurt nobody, steal nothing, You had loved ones they threw out free plane rides and free buses, the lovely Nike clothes and shoes, and more so than one person like me, per se, who's worked their whole life ever could afford. Ever. Let's give it to the migrants. Now, the migrants are using those laws against them, especially in sanctuary cities, which we discussed already. So it's not like Texas doesn't have a problem. So then they got to throw in genocide against the Israeli Jews. What? I mean, there shouldn't be any teacher or faculty left in those schools, let alone because it's graduation week. They should all be gone. And they should have their teaching licenses revoked forever. Forever. They encouraged this. They were actually in there with the students, knowing that the poor Israeli students who'd paid their $100,000 to go that year were barricaded in their room because that's where they were told to stay. And I thought, oh, you really just can't get this criminal in the United States. Turns out you can't. it's a thing now. I'm old. I didn't keep up. So I found these videos that when I was surfacing, so that I get angry if I see what's really going on and that no one else seems to see it. I've even double dared anybody to come up here on my comment or my live stream and convince me of their convictions that Palestinians should kill the Jews from the river to the sea. Nothing but them. So that means genocide. Now, I'm assuming out of these hundreds of thousands of dollars they're spending on an education, would have taught them to at least check out the validity of what they're doing. And as I said, I worked at UT at San Antonio. Um, so I was just, it's like an alum to me. And I couldn't believe this. I really could not understand what I was seeing. These are teaching hospitals for physicians. And they grade on a curve. And trust me, if you realized how big that curve was, you would turn to holistic medicine. You think snake oil is dead. Look what Ozempic is doing to these people that want to get so slim. They look like the Walking Dead. Again, you could make them put them in black and white, and they would look like they were just being rescued from a concentration camp. And 7 months ago, they were perfect. They were lovely. Maybe a little plump. Who knows? I didn't think they was plump, but they're actors and models, and so now they have death heads. That's working out for them. And what was Ozempic? Does anybody remember? Yeah, it was for diabetes when it first came out. They had a commercial every 14 seconds. I mean, you couldn't miss it. They were all bad commercials. It wasn't even. So it kind of stuck in your memory because they were so bad. But no, no, now it's being used for weight loss. Personally, it looks like they're taking chemo. I mean, I'm just saying. So while I'm out there looking for this and a little bit more on the Ozempic problem, it intrigued me. And so I said, I'm going to look into this. And so I go off in there and I find this one that says, how bad are the police? Are they really violating our rights? And I went, yeah, they are. Because I even had a judge recused from the bench over shit that he did because he figured he was God in a robe. And this is why what happened to George Floyd happened because they think they're God with a gun. They wouldn't be shooting for him on a porch if they didn't, although I believe that was terror, a terrorist. In any event, there was a lot of them killed the year that they protested for Floyd. They wrote that stuff all the way down, the mayor in D.C., Black Lives Matter. Honey, all lives matter. But what was being done was atrocious hell. I mean, it was horrific. So I said, I'm going to look at this for a second because actually it's been done to me 3 times. And it turned out they didn't have the right person. It was the wrong address. And they just toss your house and walk out. They don't say, we're sorry or we've got the wrong person. And this is in the age of body cams. So that body cam footage is on, except for when they turn it off when they want to do bad things, which they do all the time, it turns out. Then, and I wish I was younger again. They have, a, they have several teams that roam around and they look for traffic stops because if they'll stop you and say, "Oh, your tag is out of date," that's because when they were coming up there, they pulled the sheet of the thing off, and so it was looking like they hadn't bought the tag. They got a tag receipt in the car, but that don't count because you can make those. You cannot make up what these people do, yet they do, and they're on body cams. They this no knock thing. Does anybody remember what a pilgrim is? Nobody. Do you remember why the pilgrims left England? Anybody? Show of hands. I got time. Nobody remembers that. You didn't get that in school. Okay, let me fill you in. Okay, in the 16th century, Henry VIII outlawed what? Anybody again? Okay, I'm going to give that one to you too. Catholic catechism. No more from Rome would they be ordered about in religion. So the whichever monks or preachers or so forth that they found, they murdered instantly. And of course, mind you, these churches had all the wealth as well. Those chalices and so forth that they had, that was real gold, that was real jewels, that was real silver, that was real property. And you can see the ruins. I did a few tours over there. And so, in any event, this was a mass war against a particular religion that they actually won. And to this day, now Charles is the head of the Church of England. Queen Elizabeth II was before him, and so on and so on. It started out with Henry. Of course, then went on Elizabeth first, and I could give you all of them. But again, we were terrorists when we seceded away from the king, and they said, "Okay, we won the war. You can't call me king. Okay, call me president. We'll make these laws up that they can't change." Now the Pilgrims came because the no knock thing was going on. They'd kick in their door, find their Bibles, and shoot them, hang the women, put the children to work somewhere as a slave. But now England didn't have slaves. If you use a different word, puppy, I swear to God, you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a freaking damn pig. Now you can call it serfdom all you want. It was slavery. It was flat out slavery. And let's not forget Australia. Let's not forget the indentured servants sent to the United States. Yes, it was a penal colony in Australia. That was just prison. Well, not out there. What are out here with these Aborigines that they thought weren't worth nothing, which turns out they're 15,000 years older and had a whole lot more going on than they did. Just absolutely hysterical. So the no knock thing had come about during, as I said, 16th century, Henry VIII. We're all caught up, right? Yep. So they come out here, Plymouth Rock. Everybody got that in school, I'm sure. Plymouth Rock, landed at Plymouth Rock, up in the Northeast. So you had New England, yada yada yada. You only had 13 colonies. Unbelievably, Georgia, where I'm at, and I really don't much care for Georgia, but we'll go there another time. Georgia was also one of the 13 colonies, which would have been at that time the biggest of the 13 colonies. So that no knock was one of the reasons they left. One of the reasons it was written into the Constitution that you could be free to practice any religion you wanted, that the authorities could not kick your door down because they thought you had a Bible or marijuana or whatever you want to use today. It's the same principle. It's supposed to be covered by the Constitution and Bill of Rights. In particular, first, second, third, and fourth basically show up all the time. And they violate those so fast that you don't even know you had one. I mean, these traffic stops are something else. When they realize, and they have body cams, and they'll turn them off. But when they realize that even some of them are so stupid they committed with body cams on. Like in particular stop I watched, the guy went over to the back of the car, bent down to look at the plate, took the sticker off. He's on body cam. Took the sticker off, threw it down, walked around to the driver, said, "I need your driver's license, insurance, and registration." And the guy said, "Well, didn't you just run the plate? All that's on there." But hang on, I'm moving from a plate. I got a lot of stuff in here, and I don't have my wallet in my pocket. So well, you can't look around because you're fishing for a gun or you're fishing to hide something. So of course he's taken out handcuffed, and like this was like 15 seconds from the time that the officer stopped and had slammed this guy against the concrete ground against the street, handcuffed him, and then proceeded to hit him in the head with the back of his gun. And this is all on his own body cam. His wife is in the passenger seat. And the cop is screaming to her, he's resisting, don't move. He's resisting, don't move. And the guy's going, I'm not resisting. Why do you keep hitting me in the head? Luckily, another one of these camera crews that I didn't know we had that run around if they see a traffic stop, they come up and they film, because usually when they find out they've pulled somebody over for no reason and have slammed into the ground 3 or 4 times, uh, you know, uh, hit them in the head with the butt of the gun a couple of times, kicked him in the stomach, picked him up, broke his rotary cuff, broke his neck because he couldn't stop his fall when they slammed him down. This guy, I mean, it was just horrific what I was watching. I was like, oh my God. And this was, I swear to you, even the timestamps on there's like 15 seconds. So this guy didn't even have time to get out of his vehicle before that cop had jerked him out, thrown him down, and was kneeling on him. He was already cuffed. He was kneeling on him and hitting him in the back of the head with the gun. That wasn't good enough. He got up then and used the taser twice. Meanwhile, this guy has pissed his pants. He don't know what's going on. He's been tased twice. His head's bleeding from different multiple wounds. And head wounds bleed a lot, but you hit somebody with the butt of a gun and you press 350, you bench press that, you're going to kill him. And meanwhile, he's telling the wife, she's trying to film. And he stops what he's doing with the husband, runs around the car and grabs her phone and instantly starts deleting the footage. And her things are in there too. They were moving to another apartment from another state. They worked, believe it or not, for the state. They were both teachers. So there was no more footage, but there was, because this couple worked for a particular podcast because it had happened to them. They planted stuff in their vehicle. They added charges. They said, see, if you don't get out when they tell you to, it's called obstruction of justice. And they're apparently allowed to use that law to beat the shit out of you. You weren't guilty of nothing. And even showed that he took the tag off just so he could do something to these people. Now, going on a lot. Um, because the police, when they stop somebody, they got to confiscate whatever they had. And then it went to the police department, was sold or whatever. They got one guy for $6,000 in cash. He just sold his car and was taking the money to his mother, who was on chemo, to help pay for this. And suddenly that $6,000 went nowhere. They never had none there. They all had it on their body cams when they found it, but no, they didn't take no cash. This is the kind of thing that's going on, and they were getting away with it. People were being thrown in prison for 18 years. One boy, another one managed to film it. They ran into this house they did the no-knock and knocked the door down, ran in, grabbed a pregnant woman, threw her to the floor. She had hardwood floors. The baby had just come home that day. So the baby had been born the day before. On the second day, they threw her to the floor, handcuffed her while kneeling on her, holding her head down, and bouncing it a few times off, the floor. Because supposedly, and I did see on the body camera, she said, stop. You don't have the right to come in unless you have a warrant. And that was it. They had her. And these were a young couple, and they had some friends over and 2 cousins, I think. So the husband, I think they were in their early 20s. They were just young. And so he's on the side of the door where the baby's at. And the cops are not 20 feet from this baby, and this guy was shaking so bad on this body cam. He was like this, holding a gun. He looked like Barney Fife. I thought, did Andy give you the bullet back? And like this, at this boy who's just a few feet from this baby, almost in a direct line, trying to get to the baby, to get somebody else in the room to take the baby out to safety. They didn't know what was going on. And they kept screaming, what's wrong? What did we do? We've got a baby here. And this kind of thing. She just had the baby yesterday. These cops, it didn't stop them. They arrested 3 of them, 3 of the boys and the mom, and threatened to take the baby from her through defects. So this was in Georgia. Department of Family and Children's Services, defects. So it turns out thank goodness that one of them did record. They had no right to enter the property. They had gotten a noise violation. Apparently, they were having a small birthday party, and the neighbors thought it was too loud. And this is one of those HOA neighborhoods that everybody just runs out and pays $500,000 for that $20,000 house. So, yeah. And this is the kind of stuff they were getting away with, which is why people said you got to have body cams. I mean, this can be stopped. It didn't. They found ways around it. They got more cops. They must have had 20 cops out there. These guys weren't doing anything and would have been. I think they sang happy birthday a little loud. I'm not sure. So it turned out that the husband was only 19. And I knew they were kids. So they put him in jail for 18 years. Yeah, they said he was guilty of obstruction, that had a firearm and all kinds of. This boy had none. He was standing in front of that baby when they cuffed him and threw him. They threw him on the bed first. His head was like this far from that baby's head, and the guy was, and I'm, oh my God, and that's what they were saying. Oh my God, somebody call 911, somebody help us. Um, Nobody helped him. So he was kept up for like 72 hours with 15 cops on him, saying, if you don't sign this, we're going to take your mom, or your wife, and then we're going to put your kid in defects. He didn't even know what was on it. So he signed it, and they got him 18 years, and they were not guilty of anything. So this is another case that they showed. There was another case. They went to a couple's home, and they did the no-knock, and it took them 3 tries. And they were ready for bed. It was about 11 o'clock at night. So the husband goes to the door. Well, he's pinned. They tagged him. They got lights on him. There's a green. There's a red. But that wasn't good enough for him. They threw him off the porch, tased him twice, pepper sprayed him because he's still trying to see what's going on. His wife's in the house. When he heard the gun go off, which was the beginning of them taking him down on the porch, he knew it was an AK-47. He was a veteran, too, and a former police officer. And he's going, what the hell are you doing? But they beat him up. Another one, they headbutted with the back of the gun. And he lost consciousness. They hit him so many times. The wife was screaming. And she's filming it. She had grabbed her camera her phone, and started filming it. Well, they weren't, thank God, smart enough to take that off, but they were still on body cam. They arranged that. They edited the hell out of that. So they did the same thing to the woman that they did to the man, and he's now unconscious. She's thrown, but I mean, 2 cops just next to her. They look like the Atlanta Falcons fullbacks. I mean, they grab her and they throw her by twisting her by her arm and throw her down on the concrete sidewalk next to her unconscious husband. And they still don't know what's going on. And she too is handcuffed. Well, when they threw her the way they did, they tore her rotary cuff completely and that shoulder. They broke her neck in 2 places because she, again, could not stop her fall. She didn't even know they were going to grab her. They weren't guilty of nothing. They tried everything to find something. They even went so far as 10 years prior to them buying the home that they were in, they bought a garbage can from the city they were living in. So it still had the property of such and such city on it. They never saw a need to change that. So they wanted to arrest them because they stole this trash can, which they haven't even checked with the city because there's nobody up there. It's 11 o'clock at night. They can't check, see if this thing disappeared, when it disappeared. So they said, I suppose you got a receipt. The guy did. He had a receipt. It was on his computer. He showed the receipt. And they went out and they uncuffed the woman. Meanwhile, she's screaming in pain. She's begging for help. She's asking for an EMS. All the while, they're telling her she's all right. Meanwhile, the husband gained consciousness back, and the only thing they could find by that point was the trash can. So they finally uncuff him and walk out. They've trashed their entire house. I have been there. This is horrific. They break your property. They stand on it. They take your beds and things and throw them on the second floors and stuff like this. I mean, it's horrific what they do. And they don't say, I'm sorry. They don't start helping put it back. None of that. They just leave. Okay, so he had to call EMS. He went into a coma, and he was lucky he came out of it. She was in the neck body brace because of the where they broke her neck twice and her torn her rotary cuff. Her rotary cuff would never heal because they completely broke it, tore it, and there was nothing there. There was no noise ordinance. Turns out again, they had bad advice. They thought they made a show about cops, and that show was being canceled. So they decided they would find another way to get back on the news and all that, or into a show because they made a lot of money. The cops did. So they decided to call it like raid on drugs or something like that. So that's why they got these. They attacked this couple because they were supposed to be making drugs, selling drugs, and so forth and so on. Lots of cash. They love it when you have a lot of cash. You don't ever get that back. And I can testify that. I really can. Uh, Dirty as I call them. They think they're God with a gun, let alone a badge. They don't care what that badge means. If the badge is protect and serve. It don't say go in and do a no knock and take two people out, beat them up, make them nearly dead. I actually saw another clip. I mean, there it doesn't end. You can't make it up. This guy was a Vietnam veteran. He was homeless. He had a bike. He had gone to Publix with what little money he was getting, I guess, from Social Security or the VA. It's a toss up. I know some that are given a stipend from the VA because of Vietnam for various medical reasons. In any event, the guy was leaving and a car hit him. And this guy was so nice. I mean, he didn't look it. He had this big bushy beard and he was living rough. So, he's picking up his bike and he's checking it. And the guy that hit him comes out and helps start picking up the groceries that was in the basket. And he's a nice guy. And he says, no, I'm good. And the guy that hit him was so upset that he wouldn't at least let someone check him out with EMS or anybody. Could he call anybody? Well, apparently the cops saw it, but they blamed the guy on the freaking bike. And on top of that, they took this poor guy. He was like, I got to find my wallet must have fell out somewhere because it's not here. And they kept saying, you got to stay here, pulling it back about 2 feet and jerking this guy. And he looked like he's like 5'4", for God's sake, 75 years old, 71, 70 something years old. The Vietnam vets are not that young. So they keep jerking him back this 2 feet. And he keeps telling him, I'm just trying to find my stuff. And they act like they never heard him. And this one cop, I don't know, maybe he thought he was Rambo. He took this poor man, grabbed him by the arm, and threw him down where he made sure his head would bounce off the concrete curb. Hard. The guy he was out. Well, then the same cop that did this damage to this man says, get up, quit playing, get up. He jerks the guy who's still unconscious up by his collar and leans him against his knees and says, well, he's wanting to play like he ain't conscious. Guess we'll go ahead and cuff him and throw him in the back. And the other guy goes, because he said, first off, do you need EMS? And when the guy did that and bounced the guy's head off the curb, the other cop said, well, we do now. And he hightailed his ass out of there. He left the scene because he knew this cop had done a very bad thing. And he didn't want to be involved, and he didn't try to stop him. He didn't do nothing but leave after he said, well, we do now. Meanwhile, this cop is off talking to 3 other squads that have pulled up. Why, I don't know, but they seem to come en masse, 10, 20 cops for this little 71-year-old guy. I mean, I swear to God, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Meanwhile, he's now propped him against the curb, like, he's still unconscious. He hit him with so force. It was you heard it. I mean, you could hear his head hit that concrete. Oh my God. If he wasn't dead already, he will be soon, because that's the type of injury where your brain starts to swell and you die because your cranium, there's only so much room. I've had friends die of this. Now I'll talk about that. But so they're all trying to make up stories as to what this guy did. And EMS comes up, and the guy finally, they do the thing, whatever they did. So he kind of woke up a little bit. And they said, do you need any help? He said, oh, no, I'm fine. It didn't hurt me. The bike's fine. He was still on the accident. He didn't even realize that the cop had pounded him into the curb because he was that injured. Well, the cops by then, the EMS leave. And the cops by as soon as the EMS leaves, they come out and they cuff the guy. He can't even stand up. He's so dizzy. He's so hurt. They take him downtown, put him in a cell overnight. Said that he's drunk, disorderly. Wake him up tomorrow for the judge to sign bail or whatever. The guy was so hurt that he couldn't even walk the next morning. He couldn't even. He was telling him, "I'm hurting. I'm hurting." Now this is a Vietnam vet. They probably take a lot of beating back in the day. So, but he couldn't walk straight. He couldn't put his own shoes on. The two cops that are back there getting, I guess, prisoners ready to see this judge, per se, don't try to help the guy except to get him ready enough to march him in. And they have to march him because he's so dizzy. He's throwing up. He's doing all kinds of stuff. He's begging for water. They don't even give him that. Um, Finally, they get him out somehow. I don't get to see that footage. The judge, I don't know what they did, but somehow I think they let him go. And the family, the brother then saw him and realized what had happened when he had started getting a little bit of memory back. So they ran him to the hospital. Then they ran him through emergency surgery. The guy lived another 3 months. He never recovered from the surgery, never gained consciousness again. They killed him. They killed him. Then, of course, there was up there, we don't advocate such force if necessary only. As if they see the guy was, looking for his bike and shit, that's why we killed him. I had no idea it was that bad, even though it's happened to me and my husband a couple of times. And I won't talk about those because I'll get angry. But if you get a chance, either drop a comment to me. I'm on live chat again this morning. I got to run around and do some things. But if you have any questions, or if nothing else, just look it up. I'm sure you can find the right words. I Google it. It'll tell you what to look for. Because this isn't one city. It's not one county. It's not one state. This is nationwide that they're doing this with body cams. Like the $6,000, the traffic stop that they did. The guy was in a Beamer. It turned out he was a businessman with his wife. That's the one's another one that was just kind of doing their own thing, not bothering nobody. They weren't illegal. They provided everything the guy asked for. Then the guy it got the guy, beat him half to death after throwing him down to the ground, standing on his head and shit. This is everywhere. It's not just, it didn't just stop because they now put body cam. I'm still shocked and awed. I mean, I knew I had seen some terrible things in my day. And I myself and my husband, like I said, have been detained by the police, have been arrested by the police. I was never arrested, but wasn't because they didn't try. It was that I wasn't guilty of nothing and they didn't have anything to plant on me. You would not believe how much stuff goes missing when they catch you with it or they raid your home. They even take your home if you have something like drugs or something going on. And so this was motive for them to continue to basically be murderers with a gun. The United States people, they need to wake up, just like I have watching this. So I recommend that you do so. There are two organizations that try to help in matters like this because it's against all of your civil and individual rights as a United States citizen. That they find stuff that's not there. 1 minute it's there, next minute it's not. They make up stuff like obstruction. They were fighting me and this kind of thing. Meanwhile, whatever cash and jewelry and valuables you have, that just disappears. You can get it after court. After court, no. They went to the court fines and all. I'm assuming. Because, again, it's happened to us. So, thank God that was in the 90s. And I thought it stopped. I thought now they've got the body cams, we know what to no, we don't know what they're doing. There's 15 guys behind them with batons and guns and tasers that don't have their body cams on. Now, I thought you had to have them on constantly, that you could not turn them off. That's not so. They had me convinced that cops were being killed for no reason. They're being shot, and they were being shot in the head, except one mother or two, and so forth. Horrific. But at the same time, these two organizations that have the podcast, and they are attorneys, and they have attorneys that work with them. And if you have any footage of things like this, and you're innocent and so forth, to contact them and give them the footage or a copy of the footage, and they will do all they can to assist you. And I didn't know we needed such a thing, so I'm still in a ton of shock over what I saw. I saw three men that the cops killed by throwing down, literally making sure their heads bounced off the concrete curbs with no way to stop their falls. No way. I actually saw the video of them killing three men. Most all three of the men were looked to be between 50 and 70. Not one of them was guilty of nothing. Nothing. The second one that I saw that they killed, he died a little bit later. Somebody finally got an ambulance to him. I think it was a bystander. He couldn't walk. They had broken his back. Turned out they had to amputate his legs. And this is what the cops did to him. They had to amputate his legs. And finally, he was put in a nursing home because he needed round-the-clock care. He lasted 6 months after the incident and then died. None of them were charged because it was injuries of some sort else or whatever, from the amputation and so forth. No, it was from them breaking his neck, and blood flow didn't circulate, so they had to amputate his legs because that's the only thing they could do to save him. And they didn't save him. He lived like a vegetable 16 or 6 more months and died. So that was three I saw the cops kill outright and knew they were going to, at least in the very least, hurt them badly. Now, if they didn't think they were going to kill him, and I'll give them a little leeway, maybe they didn't think they was going to kill him. But there's no way that they could say they did not use excessive and unnecessary force. There's no way they could testify to me or in front of any other American that they, A, did not have a reason to do this, B, did do this, C, covered it up, and by so doing, D, killed someone. And that's just a few people. Two of them were on bicycles, both veterans, Purple Hearts. Purple Hearts. And that's how the officers treated them. So when the officers go, and I don't want to see anyone die, let alone an officer. And we had an incident where 8 were shot at, 4 were killed at the scene. The other 4, were what I heard, were still fighting for their lives. But there's a lot of dirty damn cops out there. And I'm still shocked. I've watched for 2 days. Video after video after video of this. How some people live through it, I don't know. I don't know. Because they certainly meant to hurt them and hurt them bad when they did what they did. I don't know why. There's no evidence as to the why, wherefores, who, what, when, where, why, and how. None of those questions got answered. Some of the families were able to get some justice in them saying they used excessive force. That's it. The guy, they stole $6,000 out of his wallet, or kind of thing you put. Anyway, they didn't have that. We don't know what happened to that. You're just saying that because you were arrested. Judge upheld it. So, what I'm trying to say here is, I stopped trusting the police when I was a little girl. I used to think you could walk up to a police officer and hold their hand, and they would help this kid home. Oh no, no. First thing I would tell my granddaughters, run to any house, and beg them to start filming, and using their own camera to film, but get away, because I've seen what they've done to kids. And I wasn't much more than a kid myself on the first time they did it to me. And again, it's on a rumor of so-and-so is doing this at their home. They're not guilty of anything. But, you get out of your car holding your infant and there's a 45 in your face. Somebody's grabbing your kid and you're being handcuffed. Yeah. Now they throw your shit all out in the yard and stuff, and they don't find nothing. They got to let you go. But at that point, you've been, wrestled to the ground on concrete, if not thrown down, and so forth and so on. So, the few times it happened to me, there was never any wrongdoing. They didn't even leave a ticket for anything because they didn't have anything. And still, I was hurt. And so was my husband. And it cost us. We're served. Both of us were served with something on the first and second time. The third one, it didn't. Well, yeah, it did. We had to get our car out of impound, the traffic stop. Yeah, that he was supposed to give a ticket for. We were on our way to pick up our insurance cards. It was before they could just put them on your phone. It's the 90s. And all you're supposed to get is a misdemeanor ticket to go and show that you have your insurance. You could do that at court, or you could just go to the courthouse and have them, copy it. So you had to pay $180. It's like $60 a day to get, in the car police impound lot. See, they keep those, or they did. I don't know if they still are. But anything that they take off of, i.e., a prisoner who is a wrongdoer, they get all that shit. So it behooves them to put something in your car. It behooves them to take all the stuff out of your house. Yeah. And I mean, I knew we had been through a couple of bad times, but I just put that as an error on the side. Um, we're an older couple. We're obviously not hurting anybody. They'll what they were doing to shoplifters. I was like, geez, you know, yeah, they are abusing. And so if they're doing that right now with body cams on, so to speak, and they've learned little tricks to get around that. And I mean, I literally saw 3 people die in front of me. If they're up to doing things like that with body cameras on, holy gods, what were they doing for the last, say, 40 years? They were making a lot of money. See, the police officers that rounded up that money, they got like 10%. I don't know where the rest went. I'm assuming the city or the county. Another good one is old Fannie Willis out there in Atlanta, the DA prosecuting former President Trump, that paid another guy almost $1 million, which has now been reduced to $35,000 to help with the case. Yeah, she's another one. She keeps that money in the mattress. So the corruption, my point being, the corruption is so high up that it's a you're not even sure yourself if you have been just screwed because you don't think you could do anything. And technically, you couldn't. So I was thoroughly shocked and totally awed by the courage of these people who see a traffic stop and they stop and they get out of their vehicles, they stop what they're doing, and they film. And they're not the only ones now. A lot of people are starting to film the cops, and that's why. Even though, and the cops, and they also have the right to ask for a supervisor. They've got a right to know the badge number and the name of the officer, and they've got a right to film it, unless the officer takes it away from him and oops, stomped on it. They've learned ways, guys. California made first medical marijuana, then marijuana legal. Well, anybody here got an understanding as to why? I got time. Anybody? Hmm. Lots of glaring right in your face thing there. They were making plenty of money at first because they were popping whoever, taking their house and their cars and their whatever. Yeah. Uh, Fannie Ross got her a rapper. That's where that $1 million came from because all that man's jewelry they took was to the tune of several $1 million gone. So I guess she put the jewelry in her mattress and just eked it out to the other attorney she was having an affair with to pay him back for that vacation in the Bahamas. That's where that story was going. Yeah, they steal it, they keep it. And you got no way to prove you had it or that they stole it or, you're screwed. And I mean, I literally, I was shocked many years ago, about 40 years ago, when they did it to me the first time. And then I would say 30 years ago the second time. So it's not like they stopped. It's not, I mean, people say, oh, they're profiling. I don't think it's so much as profiling, it's that maybe your neighbor doesn't like you, or maybe your neighbor's just one of those Karens and thinks you're doing something, and they call the police, and the police decide to come get your shit. Okay, because I think in most counties and cities, and especially in Georgia, it's just corrupt as hell. They think, they still get that 10% of whatever they take away from you. I don't know how much the judge gets because they come up with that, whatever they got to come up with. Just like that couple, they couldn't find anything else, so they were going to get it for the trash can. But he had a receipt. But did you have to have a receipt for a trash can? Another one's son was beat nearly to death, and the other one, the father, was fairly ill. So the friend, who, by the way, it was the one that his wife and he had been taken off the porch and nearly killed, and now he was filming the police and what was going on. So he said he would go with the guy, and he went down to see what they could do about talking to a supervisor because the boy had not even yet been seen by a paramedic, nurse, person had a band-aid, nothing. And he managed to get his phone call and was telling his father that he was really hurt bad and that he wanted to say goodbye because he didn't think he was going to live through it, but they weren't going to help anyway. So that's what the father was trying to do. And this was in another state that they'd stopped his son and beat him near to death. So they were trying to get the boy some attention, some medical attention. They weren't trying to interfere with anything or say he wasn't guilty. They were just simply trying to say, can you get EMS to look at my son? So they put him in a room. And sorry, my eyes are dim again. They put him in a room. So the other guy went in there because the father was so frail. So he went in there and it had a phone. And they said, you just dial this number and you'll get the supervisor. And then they can decide if they want to come down or when they can come down. And the guy's looking at him going, yeah, right. I got a bridge out back you need. But he goes along with it. He's filming. He's got one of those things on and he's got it on his chest, like paranormal grip shoes. So he's filming everything. So he picks up the phone, which is filthy. I mean, I wouldn't have picked it up. Maybe with some clothing. This thing was filthy. It didn't work, of course. They knew that. By the time he comes out and says, this phone's not working, is there another one I can use? Which is, there's a row of them. There's just little cubicles that you go in, there's a phone. You can see through the windows. There's nobody in the other ones. But the cop walks up to the guy because he comes out then, tells the guy on the desk, which is behind plexiglass, I guess, bulletproof. The phone's not working. Could he use one of the others? And that guy's going, no, I think that might be working on the system or something. So this guy's still filming all this. So he's going back to tell the older father, the elderly man, that he can't use the phone to get through to the supervisor, so he doesn't know what steps to take next. Before he can get to this person, a little old man, I mean, I'm talking this is maybe 60 feet away from the phone. And he's on his way now from the sergeant who's 30 feet away. He's in between them. So here's the phones. Here's the sergeant. Here's this little old father. Just trembling. I mean, I think he might have even had Parkinson's. He was ill, very ill. So he's on his way across the room. This is not a big room. To tell the gentleman that he doesn't know what to do at this point. They're going to have to get the attorneys involved. And this poor man had no money either. So this officer, the same one that had been doing the Rambo pose, I call it, he walks over to the guy and says, turn around, put your hands behind your back, you're under arrest. And he says, huh? For what? Well, you have a charge from 1999 for, I forget what it was. It was so stupid. Because that's what they did by putting him into that booth and making him waste time, was to check the plates on his truck and try to pin something on him. So he would be stopped from recording and stopped from aiding and helping this elderly man who was trying to save his son's life that they had tried to kill. But they did put the man in jail. And finally, when he went before the judge, is where the judge caught it. And before the judge should have thought about it, he actually said, this isn't your name. This name has an extra E and an extra D. You don't have that. Is this your name? And of course, the guy says, well, here, you've got my license and everything. No, that's not me. So they had to let him go. But this is how far they will go to stop you or hurt you, to take your property, to violate your rights, and all the above. And what I thought it had stopped, that this every cop on every county couldn't be dirty. Not every sheriff could be dirty. I'm beginning to revise that opinion. So if I see people pulled over, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull over and I'm going to film because it needs to be done. This has to be stopped. Now they've killed several people and they got away with that pretty much. Some of the people were lucky enough that others were filming it. The footage was given to the courts. Now, mind you, as I mentioned earlier, I had a judge recused from the bench. We won't go into what that's all about, but yeah, I had him recused, meaning he no longer could practice as a judge. Didn't affect his law license or anything, but he actually called me personally and begged me to work for him. You need to get out of court. You take them robes, press them up real pretty, because you're gonna need them at home. So, no, he never did practice as a judge again. He retired instead. So sometimes you're lucky and you can fight back. And my advice is to always either have you, if you see one come into your door, God knows with the no knocks, I thought they were supposed to stop those two, and they have not stopped them. They haven't even slowed them down. I mean, it's the other thing that bothers me about all this is not only knowing that I've been through it myself, is that these people have no advocacy, no avenue, like the boy who signed away 18 years of his life to save his wife and child. They have no recourse to anything. They don't have money. They don't have attorneys. They don't have the footage from the body cams, which is then edited, and all kinds of stuff is made up in there. Oh, how they fought and they obstructed it. Mind you, people, the one that they pretty much beat up that time in the 15 seconds, saying his tag was not right and throwing him down and beating him within 15 seconds of the stop. So it happens that fast. And they know pretty much that 90% of the time they have the proof that you are guilty. You have no recourse to prove that they're the guilty ones that made it up, so that it appeared to make you look guilty because they screwed up, put their hands on you, and nearly killed you. So yeah, I'm going to have to go back to being scared of the cops. And I was, going, all of us call 911. But I tell you what, after what I've been seeing and what I've been through myself, I'll wait till you break in and shoot you. No point in calling the cops because they're going to go after me first. Again, that has happened because I have a carry to carry. I have a permit to carry. There was one woman, she had a permit to carry. They had to toss her entire car. She told them right where the gun was, safety, everything on it. She got a permit. Took them 4 hours to toss that car because she had a permit and she had a weapon. She wasn't guilty of nothing. They had the wrong tag number. So what's the chances of one of us having the wrong tag number and them doing exactly the same? The chances are really high. If it's happened to me at 3 times in my life, and no, thank God, I never got put in jail. You know, nothing. We weren't doing anything wrong. But the point being, I would say at least 90 to 95% of these people that have been done this way, they were put in jail. It's amazing they didn't die. Then there were others who were put in jail and died after they were released because even the cops that have been holding know that they've been hurt, that they're dying, and they're doing everything they can just to get rid of him because they're not going to help him. Why didn't they help him? Because what happens? One of their fellow officers is guilty of this, and they know this. And they don't want to be brought into it because they're older people. On the one I saw that died, no, they don't want to be involved. Why go out there and tell that judge that this guy's been beat up by the cops? Can't do that. Why not? Huh. Wonder how many tickets you're going to get while you live there. Wonder how many times they're going to toss your house because, oops, they got the wrong address. So no, you don't want to be in it. So you dress them, you put their shoes on them, and you toss them to the cop that's walking them in front of the judge. And sometimes you're lucky and you get an honest judge, like the other gentleman, and said, "This is a different name than the one on the paperwork. What is your name? How do you spell your name?" And they're ugly to you. They talk down to you. They make you look and feel like you're just a piece of crap on the bottom of their shoe that they have to deal with so that it doesn't offend other people. And this is prevalent. And again, I advise to go look up some of those. If you have any questions, throw it in my comments. Again, I usually don't get too much on my live chat. Throw it in the comments, and I'll put a line in there for you to, put a string in for you. If not, you just, I can't remember, but I'm sure you could think of something to put in, like a society that watches for bad cops or films bad cops, something like that will pull it up. Um, I'm trying to remember what I used because I got it by accident. And then I was so horrified. I've watched for 2 days. I'm like, oh my God. And every one of them, there was a dirty cop. If they didn't steal a person's life, they certainly beat the crap out of them. Um, Evidence went missing, or there was no evidence to begin with. They were in the wrong place. So no, there was nothing wrong, except maybe they stole a trash can, but they didn't. But meanwhile, the wife's rotator cuff is torn loose completely, and her neck is broken in 2 places. They're still running around going, "Well, look, that garbage can," you know. So, and the father of the baby won't ever see the baby till she's 18. She was only 1 day old, and they took his life. Oh, he's still alive, but now he's in prison, and prison is different than jail. Prison, you have to be a hard ass or you're going to die, or you're going to become somebody's toy. There's nothing any good in prison either. They're not stopping the abuses in prison. I think maybe, if anything, they have climbed. I don't have those statistics. You might look. But I felt it was important in this podcast, the social Woodstock, that everybody seems to be afraid of the man again, as we used to say. Burn City. Suddenly everybody's afraid of the cops. And I will admit to it, I am too. They are God with a gun and a badge. If you get stopped and they tell you to get out of your car, get the hell out, because they will about kill you taking you out. You have like 3-4 seconds to do so. Say, yes, officer, okay. Here are my hands. Don't need those 4 warning shots in the back. So yeah, there's every reason, and I didn't think that there were now, to be afraid of the police. They used to beat my brother up all the time in Chicago. Chicago kept, we knew we were corrupt. We knew that. My dad used to tell us about stories about that. Daddy ran with the unions, we'll put it that way. Okay. My daddy used to run moonshine before World War II. They were that old. They were adopted parents. But I'm going to have to go. I have things to do, says my husband. And my sinuses are killing me again. Forgive me. But I do advise that you to look into that seriously, into those matters, and see what footage was caught by these other people, by the body cams, sometimes by family or members who are there. And this is in front of your friends, your relatives, your families, your neighbors. And that was what bothered me the first 2 times, was that, the neighbors are thinking, well, they got to go. I mean, they don't care who's watching. It could be your dead grandma. They don't care. And technically, like I said, 95% of this is not caught. The property goes missing. The people go through the hospitals. They have to pay those bills after they get out of jail, if they live through it. So if you see these things and you can, film them. If you can film them discreetly, please do so. It makes you a target if you try to film. If there's 10 or 20 of you out there trying to film, that's a good thing, because they can't get all of you. They know they can't get all the cameras. There's also cameras in the streets. There's cameras in the stops. There's a camera on top of you when you pay. And yet they're getting away with it. They're getting away with it. In the particular case about the boy lost his legs, one young man in his 40s, 50s. Anyway, there were no cameras out there. He was at a music festival, and they dragged him out to a picnic area that there was nobody at, and then proceeded to beat him and throw him in concrete stuff where there was nobody there. So, but yet it was recorded on the body cams. They did not turn them off, and I don't know, I guess they have a way of checking those. The other guy whose wife was hurt so badly with the rotorcraft and so forth, he had an audio file recorder on that they missed. And it picked up them talking to each other about how they were going to screw him running so he couldn't sue them for nearly killing him and grievously wounding his wife. And they had no right to do any of it, even if they had been guilty of something, which they were not. That's the ones with the trash can. Had the receipt like me. I keep that shit. So, lesson for today, don't trust anybody. Don't trust the law. Don't trust a judge. Never trust an attorney. Fired three, did my own divorce. That's the story. Always film if you can and look these up. Advise people you know. Tell them to tell people they know. This is a serious thing here, folks. People are dying. And again, this is while they're using body cams. And if they're going to kill people live on body cams and they still get away with it, then this is really, really high up. And I know it's high up. I know for a fact that the DA, as I like to say, with those Bahamica vacations that she paid for with that money in her mattress. Yeah, she's not dirty. Hunter Biden didn't lose that laptop. They ain't taking payments, putting them through 6 banks. He needed to sit out in the Ukraine gas company and make $100,000 a week. Sure. This goes high, folks. This is what President Eisenhower said. Do not let the police become militarized, because if you do, it's no longer America and you are enslaved to the police. They will and have and do make it up as they go along. And if they can't do it, they'll get 15 more cops on the scene, tearing your car apart, your house apart, something where they can find anything to get you. And that, guys, is frightening. So I'm going to let y'all chew on that. I'm going to go and get out this heat, get some things done. Anybody's got any comments on that? I'd love to see them. Still social Woodstock. These are things we should talk about. And this topic today was just one of the terrible things that's being perpetrated by our own justice system. And it has checks and balances, so this shit doesn't go on. And yet it's going on with body cams. They're filming it, and they're getting away with it. And it's time we all woke up and said, this got to stop. Now, they didn't get away with killing George Floyd, thank God. But I saw for a fact on those videos that they killed 3 men. They killed them, and they got away with it. So, be careful. Toodles, guys. Make it a good week. Hopefully we have a few out there that like us. I wouldn't bet on it.